the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impacts. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. All right, welcome to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today's episode, we're going to be answering the question, is it possible to have a peaceful, stress-free life while running a small to medium-sized business? To answer that question, we have Dave Moravec. He is a fractional sales leader and founder of Sales Manager for Rent, helping small business owners move from stressed and stuck to sustainably successful. He's led company turnarounds, written 3 business fables, and served as Ohio's top small chamber for the Chamber of Commerce. He plays competitive fast pitch baseball, loves to travel, and just welcomed his 10th grandchild into the scene. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Drew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So you've been the leader of the Chamber of Commerce. Is it in Cincinnati or is it like in Northern Kentucky?
Suburban Cincinnati, Northwest side, suburban chamber. There's about 40 between Dayton and Cincinnati.
About
40 different chambers of commerce. So we're a suburban chamber, 15 minutes from downtown.
Oh, very cool. Well, just to let everybody know, the reason that we have Dave on the show today, Dave is a polyglot of business skill. Dave and I met about a year ago. We met over his books. We have a couple of mutual connections involved. Dave has now come on to be one of the connection conductors at the Innovate Summit. Just super well connected and super fluid in helping you understand these are the different ways that you can make business happen the old-fashioned way, which is not the marketing fluff. It's not talking about ROAS. It's not talking about all those things that people are selling you today. It's business the way it used to be, between real humans connecting in real time. Before we got on the show, we were talking about your interest in ancient business knowledge, not yours, but other people's. Tell me what you got behind your head there.
Sure. Yeah. Behind me is a set of books through the Alexander Hamilton Institute, which began in the early 1900s with thought leaders. Each of these thought leaders took on a volume of a specific discipline in business, say accounting, say even cost accounting, say marketing, sales. Sales management had a separate category, and they took thought leaders and brought them together to put a volume of books together to generally educate the middle manager in some larger companies that wouldn't have otherwise maybe gone to college or gone to those disciplines. It was a 2-year program. They invested in their individual staff, and that program went on through the middle 70s with those series of books, about 300 pages each, intended to be 10 pages per day for 30 days, and then to move on to the next discipline.
I love that. So Dave, you just told me about these books like right before we got onto the show, and I'm super excited about them. I sell business coaching, and like business coaching straight up as like an executive coach for smaller businesses. But once you get into the medium businesses and the enterprise businesses, I also put on workshops, help middle managers learn the craft. And I'm finding a lot of friction with this. I don't know that CEOs are investing in their people the way that they used to. What is your perspective from like the chamber and all the work that you've done?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you to that degree, Drew. Readers are leaders. Harry Truman said it best that not all readers are leaders, but all leaders must be readers. And I think we've lost that after we've gone to college. We're done with the books. We're done with the, that late night study. And especially once we have kids, we're busy with soccer and softball and all those things. We barely have enough time to put our heads down to bed. But back in the day, they were expecting business leaders to spend 10 pages. That's all, 10 pages. And at the end of 2 years, you'd have general working knowledge of all the different disciplines of business. Today, we have business fables that exist. Bob Burg's got a great book called The Go-Giver.
Goodness, yes.
The Energy Bus. If you read The Energy Bus, terrific fable. Raving Fans, absolutely phenomenal book. But you have to take the time and energy to pick up the book and actually do some reading. And this is just one way for us to do that. I actually created the first book called Echoes of Success around the sales module. And it's uncanny how so much of what we used to do back in the early 1900s still applies to today. Things like shaking hands, looking people in the eye, making sure that you're a conversationalist and you have something to talk about when you meet the client. And so I took 19 of those lessons and put them into a condensed volume myself.
I love that you brought up a conversationalist. I read a fantastic book. I mean, it's got to be 6 or 8 years ago now, by Leo Lowndes, called 92 Ways for Small Talk. The number 92 is huge on the book, and it's like for small talk or something like that. And it was super helpful. I don't know, in a world full of smartphones, if people know how to look each other in the eye anymore. But carrying a conversation is a two-way game. My favorite tip is when somebody asks you a question, respond with 2 or 3 hooks that they can grab onto and steer the conversation where they want to go. So don't just be like, oh yeah, I had a great time. So, I had a great time. I really loved the ambiance. It reminded me of my kids' soccer game. What do you think? So now you can take that in a couple of directions, right? Like, it's a game where we're passing back and forth.
Sure.
What are some of your favorite tricks to do in a conversation to be a good conversationalist?
Yeah. When I think back in the day, I mean, I've been in business over 40 years. Cold calling or even the visit today is far different than it was back in the day. When you walked into somebody's office, you picked up on their kids' pictures that were on their desk. You picked up trophies. You picked up on the conversation about trophies, and you might do the same thing. Oh, you've got a beautiful family, and I see that you've got a hole-in-one trophy sitting on your counter. And all of a sudden, if they're a family person, maybe they're going to go that direction and talk about their family, or they're proud of the hole-in-one that they had, and they'll go through the description of how that took place. But they cared that you cared about them to even begin the conversation. And if they were really direct, they might say, well, that's what everybody else does. So tell me why you're here. and maybe you'd have to pivot right there and start to talk about, the real reason that you're in the room. But today, when we're talking about Zoom calls, and this is one example that I use all the time, Drew, when people are making phone calls, and I call you, and we'll just do this as an example. Hey, Drew, this is Dave. You and I talked at a networking event, and I'm just following up on that conversation. And in the background, you say something to the effect of, well, thanks for calling. It's early in the morning. I've got a meeting in a few minutes. What is it you want? And all of a sudden, my posture, normally, most people will go into, well, I'm really wanting to get back to you. Can we get a set up a coffee? No. Right. That's not how you do it. The real approach is, I understand you're busy. Why don't I call you a different time? Take care of what you need to take care of. I'll try you back this afternoon. Would 1 o'clock be okay? Yes, thanks. Give me a call after lunch. When they get off the phone with you, they go, that's a professional, because he was listening to what I said. I'm busy. I'm going into a meeting, and I really don't want to talk to a person that I just met at a networking event.
So I love that, because you actually sounded like a real human being. Like, it wasn't a sales tactic. I got a couple of guys in my Facebook feeds. I accidentally resisted the click, right? So now I have downloaded their worksheet. Now they call me kind of on a schedule, but every 2 weeks I get a call from the same guy, and they're not listening. They're gonna make that sale. And I appreciate persistence as much as the next guy, but frankly, I don't want their service. It's not a good fit for me. Their style's not what I like. And I've told them this. They're like, no, that's cool. We'll get back to you. It's like, I appreciate the consistency, but you're not listening. Right. And I love what you just said there, that if you're calling up a cold prospect and they don't have time for you, it's okay. You can call them later. You can set up like you would if somebody like.
Yeah, absolutely. And you give them the opportunity to understand the next time that you're going to be treated they're going to be treated exactly the same way. And if you're consistent in that approach and you take a caring approach to the conversation, it's not selling any longer, it's caring. And that's what's special about going that extra mile.
So I love that. But now let's talk about the other sin. And I think that people that are new to networking, or maybe realizing that we need to start networking again now that we're all getting out after COVID, we try to care too much. I think we've all had that bad sales experience, and we don't want to be that guy. And so we say, okay, great. I'm going to add value. I'm going to be the go-giver. I'm going to give. How much is too much niceness? Because I mean, we're in a business networking conversation to make business.
Yeah.
How do you balance that niceness with actually closing a deal?
Well, I have a different approach, Drew, and maybe it's contrarian to most. Is that when the opportunity presents itself, it will present itself. If I'm that person that's going to build a relationship with Drew, you and I are going to become best business friends. Maybe we're going to play golf. Maybe we're going to go to lunch. Maybe we're going to have coffee. Maybe I'm going to introduce several people to you long before I even approach why it is that you and I are going to do business. There's going to be a light bulb moment. There's going to be an opportunity for you to say, tell me more about this and how best I can help you. And I don't put a governor on it. I personally don't. And I don't recommend that people do anymore. If you've worn out the relationship, if you've worn out the friendship, if you're purposely going to have coffee with somebody just to have coffee with them, and you really don't like them, and you're just doing it for the, purposes of networking, throw it out the window. Call on somebody else. The planet's too big. I'd rather do business with people I like, and people that eventually are going to become a relationship. Whether it turns into a business relationship or not, they'll tell me by their actions that says, you know what, why don't we get together once a quarter? And at that point, then that's your telltale sign. Somebody says, you know, why don't you give me a call next year? Well, that's putting you off. That's not a friendship. That's not a relationship. That's again, I was in educational technology, and people's budget were based on their fiscal year that ended June 30th. If you didn't get into next year's budget, there was no reason that you had to contact them for another 9 months. But contrary to that, I would say, hey, let's touch base and make sure that your plan for next year is in place, and that I'm in the budget for you next year to be able to serve the need that you have. Oh yeah, that would be great. And if you do that on a regular basis, and you're not thinking about what's in it for me, but what's in it for you, you're going to be far better off.
I love that, because again, you're just parroting, hey, be a real person, be a friend. And then when it makes sense, it will make sense. Now you and I are putting together this thing called Connection Conductors. We're a part of this thing called the Innovate Summit that's coming up in your May. We've been doing it for the last 3 years. And so this year you're coming onto the Connection Conductor team, where we're helping people meet the people. You know, you go to a conference and it's all scattered everywhere. And you and I are going to help people like actually connect with people that they should go meet. You've done this for the Chamber of Commerce for literally decades now. When you think about introducing two people, what do you think about? Are you trying to make a business deal happen? Are you trying to make relationships happen? What are you trying to do when you think about two people? Oh, these two people should meet.
Yeah, that's a terrific question, and I'll answer it by saying it depends. Well, part of it has to do with the urgency. If in fact there's an urgency associated with the need that the client has or the individual has. Drew, you say to me, I'm looking for an accountant. My accountant stinks, or my accountant is retiring. I need another accountant. Well, there's a sense of urgency associated with Bob, meet Drew. Bob's a terrific accountant. He's taking care of 5 of my clients. He's part of our Chamber of Commerce, and you need to meet him. That's different than saying, Drew, you're a thought leader in the leadership training space. I've got a friend named David. David's in a similar space, but he serves a different kind of training approach. I think you guys together would be able to collaborate with one another and get your heads together. You'd be good connection for one another. Now, that may be a year from now or 2 years from now. You might be busy with 16 conferences between now and the middle of July, and he might be off to something else. But now I've made the connection, and I've told you why you guys need to connect. That's really up to you. And that's why more and more people are BCCing the individual who makes the connection. And that's my recommendation is BCC me on your first connection. Put me in the blind copy and take care of the relationship. And from time to time, either touch base and say, hey, I was able to meet Drew and we hit it off, or David was busy, hasn't had a chance to, could you help me further that relationship? I think it would be good. I looked at his LinkedIn profile. I think we'd be able to do business together at some point. Can you help further that relationship? That's where I think the personal approach comes in. I hand type every single introduction. It's not a cut and paste that says, hey, Drew, meet Bob, Bob, meet, it's a personal approach.
I love that, because I've been in several meetings. I mean, almost to the point I would say many meetings, where a friend of mine has connected me with another friend, and we both come into this conversation not really sure about what's about to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think they need my services, and they think that I need their services. I'm thinking about one connection particularly, and we're going round and round. And I was like, pause. Why do you think our friend put us together?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I thought you needed this. And I was like, okay. I thought, all right, so we were both wrong. I don't think there was a sale here. But we're both friends of Nick. So let's have a chat. What are you up to? And my default question is I just go back to, what are you excited about in the next 3 to 6 months? Because like the answers you get are just so much fun, and you find out what people are passionate about. But if you don't do that handwritten deal, then you set me up for a sales conversation when I think that I'm going to sell them. It gets very weird very quickly.
I'm going to add one more thing, Drew, and that's that there's an expectation on my part, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is just what it is, that you're going to do a little bit of research when you reach out to Dave. If I send you Dave's LinkedIn profile and say, hey, you ought to meet Dave, he's a sales trainer, and you're not in the need for a sales trainer at that time, but I've sent his LinkedIn connection profile, and you don't do the due diligence that says he's in the same vertical market as you, to be able to start a conversation about the construction industry or whatever vertical market it is. Shame on you for not doing that. Now, I can't detail every single thing about his background. You're the same age. You went to large universities. You started both out in banking, and now you're both family man. I can't detail that in my introduction, but if I've given you the basics of their LinkedIn profile, today you ought to be able to find something to talk about besides the weather.
Yeah, no, 100%. My prep, I do their website, I do their LinkedIn, and then I'll just stick them into ChatGPT and say, hey, tell me what these folks have been posting about lately. Tell me what these folks have been writing about. Have they been featured in any articles recently? The delight somebody gets in their face when I comment about an article that they just posted or that they were featured in a newspaper is magical. I'm like, hey, I saw that you were in this. What did and ChatGPT for me is a great research tool. What do you do as you prep for a meeting?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. What do you do?
Gosh, well, if I'm prepping, I'm going to read everything I can find that's within the last 3 to 5 years. I'm going to listen to at least 1 or 2 podcasts that they've done, so that and I'm going to look for their LinkedIn profile picture, because now I know who they are as maybe the way they dress. They're more formal. They're dressed casual. They're jeans and Dockers. But I'm gonna do as much research as I can. I'm also going to look at their LinkedIn connections that are common to me. So if you and I have 30 common connections and we're national connectors, that's a pretty good start. I might even contact 1 or 2 of those and say, hey, I'm meeting with Drew. Can you tell me a little bit about him? Now, if we're in Cincinnati and I've got 100 connections that are common with you, everybody's going to know Drew, and Drew's going to know everybody that's in my circle. That's not really true. But when you and I meet, I'm probably going to pick 2 or 3 of those people, and I'm going to say, hey, Drew, you and I have a common connection with Brian, David, and Mike. And all 3 of them are in our Chamber of Commerce. How cool is that? And let you, draw a next step, with the conversation.
Yeah, no, I love that. Okay. So we're in a party. We're at one more question about networking, and then I'm going to talk about these books because I'm excited about the fact that you wrote them as fables. I'm excited about their titles. I'm excited about their content. But we're going to get to that. So last question about networking. Sometimes you go to a conference. Now, the Innovate conference, the Innovate Summit that you and I are helping to put on, it's going to have some really amazing, fantastic people in it. However, there's going to be far more great relationships made than there will be deals done, because that's just the nature of people. And I was bringing this problem up to you, and you and I were kind of talking about how we could work around it. And you said something really cool about sharing referrals. And it kind of helps shape how I think about business. So there's the level one connection where I meet somebody at a conference. Mm-hmm. And then we might like each other. We might even trust each other. But there's no real business for us to do together. But that doesn't mean that that's the end of the story. Yes. How can I take that? Hey, I like you. Hey, I trust you. Hey, I would like to support you, but we don't have anything in common at the moment. How do I take that and move it to a level where maybe you or I could actually get some business done?
Yeah, one of the things that I found really successful, and Bob Berg talks about it with his 10 questions. The 10th and greatest question that he talks about is, who would be a good referral for you? Who would be the best business contact that I could make on your behalf? And all of a sudden, it elevates the conversation we started with, which is know, like, and trust. Now I've built a relationship with you, trusting enough in my network that says, you know what? Now that I know you're looking to meet with centers of influence in the accounting space, let me look at the CPAs that are in my space, or my virtual CFOs that I know really well. And let me see if I can make a couple of introductions on your behalf. Would that be okay? You ever had anybody turn you down for that? I don't think so. And all of a sudden, now it's not about me. It's not about me doing business with you. It's about you doing business with somebody that I might know that could benefit, or vice versa. And that takes it to the next level, Drew. I really believe that.
No, I love that. For instance, in my business, I work with small and medium businesses. That's the bulk of my work. And so meeting a CPA may open up a whole bunch of lines of business for me. And so that's a common referral request I will make is, well, do you have a CPA, or do you have a couple CPA friends that I could connect with? Because I serve these folks and I do this sort of work for those folks. And those relationships have been very valuable. So now it's me and Claire, we're not doing business together. Me and Jim, we might not be doing business together, but Jim may have a couple of clients that would be great for me. And so building the relationship with Claire, building the relationship with Jim creates that flow that I need. And I think that is, when we talk about social media networking, it's very, here's a funnel, try to find the right person, get them to buy your stuff. It's very one connection after another, systematic, whereas relationships are much more about being in the right room and building the trust and the like.
Yeah. And what I'll add is that if I say it this way, Drew, who can you introduce me to in your network? Right? Me asking Drew, do you have any, my ADD just went a different direction. Crazy Gates. Do you have any jacks in your hand? Sorry, go fish. You got no, don't have any accountants in my. If I'm asking you, I'm trying to get something from you. But if I do it just the opposite, and I say, Drew, how can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? And all of a sudden, I'm giving to you those people that are there, without you saying or me saying, making that ask. And it's a subtle thing, very, very subtle, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, no, I love it. And my wife and I have a phrase, which is, people are telling you what they think of you all the time. Sometimes you come back from a meeting, you're at a friend's house, or like maybe this new couple that you're trying to connect with, or you're at a business meeting, and while you give grace to people, but generally people tell you what they think. And if somebody says to me, hey, how can I serve you? I know a lot about that person already. They're a professional. They've thought through this process, and they're being a go-giver. And that in itself gives me a lot of information that I want to keep and I want to pay forward.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your books. So you have a book. You have several books now. I think you're writing your fourth book. Is that right?
I am. Yes.
So, and you called them fables. I think this is interesting. I meet most people and they'll say, I wrote a book. Would you like to see my book? Oh, I'm the bestseller in Amazon, whatever.
Yeah.
But your phrase has always been fable. So what is the difference between a book and a fable?
Well, there's a couple of things that for me make them a little bit different. First off, they are business books. The first book, Life, is subtitled Life Lessons Through Unexpected Connections. Because like in business, you never know where you're going to meet somebody. Could be your spouse. It could be the next business contact, could be the next boss. Lots of stories around that. However, if it's told in a rote fashion, this is how you do it. And there's a million books on how to network. Mine are told in a storybook form and for the purposes of creating readers as leaders. They're very simple stories. They can be read on a plane, on the train, commuting, big cities, airports. We're all looking for some kind of entertainment along the way. So Charlie is the main character, loosely based on me, elderly business consultant, and he's got a sense of humor. He's very much like you've talked about during this conversation. He's a real person. And you can feel that from the very beginning of the first book. And so you buy into his character. But on the train, people get off and get on the train. You can interact differently than you do in an airport or on an airplane. And that setting allows for the stories, the fable, to come through. In the second book, it's focused on customer service and what I call my customer service gold card. It's drawn out through the story, and customer service today is not necessarily where we'd all like it to be. And so some lessons are learned along the way. The third book, which I'm in the process of writing, is based on hospitality, and hospitality takes customer service to the next level, and will actually take place on a cruise ship where hospitality is expected. We expect customer service when we go to almost any place, and yet we don't get it. In a hospitality, in a high-end restaurant, in an event like the Innovate Summit, where you're expecting a high level of service, a high level of hospitality, a welcoming approach. We talk about it very much like a fraternity or sorority back in the day. You want to be invited to participate in this event. You don't want to be told what you need to do at such and such a time. You don't want to have to be at this thing. You want to be invited, and that's where the Echoes series comes in. The word echoes was chosen specifically because we hear things a second time or a third time, even though it's a little bit softer. We oftentimes hear it and it resonates with us in a much more powerful way than when our boss says, you need to, right? We go off and we go to our office and we say, well, yeah, maybe he was right. The second time, third time in our ear, it echoes. And that's the basis for the Fables, the Fables titles.
No, I love this. I'm a story person. I'm a Christian. Everybody knows that on the show. And my favorite sections are the Old Testament because the bulk of those are not prescriptive, they're descriptive. They're like, I mean, there's very little, hey, look, you should do stuff this way. And then there'll be these long swaths of stories that are true stories about how people lived, and it's messy. But in those, you kind of get a feel of, oh, that's how that principle works out. I get that. I was a late college student, and I was going to this a seminar. This guy was working with First Nations people. And he said that, we're talking about the difference between cultures. And he said, First Nations people would say that Americans, that white people are loud and they talk too much. And I raised my hand and I was like, he said, they ask too many questions. That's what he said. And so I raised my hand and I said, I don't understand how you can learn if you don't ask questions. And he said, do you need to ask a question to learn? And I was like, oh, and that like fundamentally changed me of if you start paying attention to what's being said, in the story, whether it's the story you're reading or the story that you see in real life, there's a lot more out there that's trying to teach you than if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And the importance of actually doing the picking up of the book, as we talked earlier about the Alexander Hamilton books. If a business owner purchased it for me and they took these books, sent me 24 of them, and I didn't do anything with them, I just left them on the shelf. I'm not going to get the information through osmosis. However, in the back of the book, there are questions, there are exercises, there are a series of separate books, pamphlets that go with the series to help you learn them along the way. The fact is, you have to pick it up and actually do the work. If you're having a conversation with somebody and you're talking about questioning, if I haven't asked the right questions and I just am waiting for you to tell me a sales story or tell me a leadership technique that is going to help benefit me, and you're not presenting that to me with a lead-in, shame on me for not picking up on that if you in fact do that. So I think that your approach to learning, picking up that book, listening to that story, and then asking questions or asking questions of yourself. How does that apply to me? How does that apply to our company? How does that play to our family? How does that play to our budget or to our long-term goals? How does that help us with that? I get so tired of talking about the weather. It's cold here in Cincinnati. We got ice on the ground. We got snow on the ground. Today it's going to be 55, and I'm in a short sleeve shirt feeling like I need to go to the golf course. We don't need to talk about the weather.
Right.
Let's talk about relationship building. Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about your goals. And helping business owners to create profitability is really what gives me passion. So many business leaders today are struggling with family life, working too many hours, not having the right employee count to be able to, they're actually turning the wrenches or doing the work. They're working in their business far more than they're working on their business. And the passion that I have for getting them back to profitability gives them peace. So peaceful profitability is really important to me today. And I'd rather talk about how do we increase that peacefulness? How do we increase that level of satisfaction with the 16 hours a day that we spend in a vertical position? Because we do spend 8 hours in a horizontal position.
It's true. And it gets longer as you get older.
Well, and once it gets to 24, this direction, that's not good.
That's not good. No, this is great. So talk to us a little bit more. You are the sales manager for rent. So you're a fractional sales or fractional CRO, fractional CSO.
Yeah.
Why does it make sense for me to hire a fractional CRO rather than a full-time marketing intern?
Well, I guess start with how many years and experiences somebody like myself has, and not just me specifically, but others across the planet. If you hire somebody who has, and I like to use technology as an easy example. If I know this specific technology and I know how to network computers together, and that's really my strength from a technology perspective. And I've done it for organizations that have 100 or less computers.
Okay.
That's the only experience I have in order to help your strategic security. If you're in banking or you have some other needs from a technology, computer security, compliance perspective, I don't have that experience. And when you hire, and many business owners make this mistake, is that they hire somebody from their industry who has this much knowledge and this much experience in this particular industry. Baseball managers, they drive me nuts because they only have this level of experience.
Right.
If, in fact, they bring personality, culture, one-on-one caring to their team, but they don't necessarily have this sheepskin, so to speak, baseball management experience. I would love to see crossover between some of the major sports. I'd love to see a football head coach come from baseball, or from soccer going into football. I think those would be tremendous. As it relates to business, using the resources that are available at my age or somebody that has a lot more of experience from a pricing perspective, from a target market perspective, thinks outside the box and can meld the information that you currently are doing, asking the right questions. So many business consultants come in and they start asking questions immediately. If they've done their research about the marketplace, if they've done some work behind the scenes, they're probably going to be far more successful with the questions that they do have than just simply starting with the questions. And that's one of the things that I do a little bit differently, is I do a lot of research before an engagement with somebody.
Yeah, I think that's come across in the show already. The amount of energy that you put into prep work, I think, may be shocking to some people. It has challenged me. I'll be honest. I do some prep work, but I do not do as nearly as much prep work as you do. And it's kind of exciting to think about that the job of the human salesperson is to connect with other humans and to care about them. Mm-hmm. It kind of restores my faith in humanity a little bit.
Well, I did some work just working with an incubator group. I had 5 interviews for about 20 to 30 minutes each with 5 small business owners in an incubator environment. And mm-hmm. each of the 5, I had a major question for. The major question that I have is, do you know who your target market is? And how many out of the 5 had the answer? 0. Zero had the answer. And so many times business owners think that, or the sales leaders think that this is their marketplace, when in fact, if they thought a little bit wider, a little bit differently, they would find higher profitability with the clients in a different vertical market. They might find it easier to get into that vertical market, and they might have stronger relationships from a consistency perspective, client retention or client growth in other markets where price isn't as sensitive. There's a great book out there, Drew, for your listeners that are out there that are in the responding to RFPs. It's called RFPs Suck. And there's some businesses where you have to go after RFPs. However, if you do it in a systematic approach, you can increase your profitability. You can decrease the amount of time that it takes to respond to those RFPs, and actually be selective in the ones that you're potentially going to win ahead of those that you're really not a fit for. And if you're not working with somebody from the outside, all you have is the knowledge base that they have about that particular industry. So finding a fractional CSO or CRO or business coach to help you find that person, I think is critical today.
No, I think it's totally critical. What I remind people of all the time, and I've worked at Fortune 500 companies, I've worked at Fortune 100 companies, I've worked at small businesses, and done consulting work for all the above. Most executives don't do executive work all day. So when you hire a COO, a CEO, a CRO, whatever C you need, I would say 30% of their time is truly strategic chiefing work, and the rest of their time is monitoring work, management work, upkeep work. You can move the needle if you have somebody like yourself come in. You can do a workshop. You can get a lot done in a day. And then there's a lot of execution work that other folks at a much lower bill rate can execute. And sometimes even you just need somebody to put the chain back on the bicycle. Right? Like the bicycle's fine, the chain just fell off, and you need somebody that knows how to put it back on. Yeah. So dad comes out and he puts the chain back on, and you're like, good go. And you can go ride your bike for the rest of the day.
You know what I found true, Drew, too, business leaders in their space often don't have somebody to bounce the idea off of, or they get the same view from their leadership team, because their leadership team is going to nod their head and go, yep, boss, you're right. You're right. You're right. Sometimes having a contrarian in your background says, hey, maybe you should think outside the box when you ask your team about this, or you need to be more open to their answers and give them a safe place to be able to respond contrarily, and say yes more often to those outside ideas from inside your team. And sometimes they just need a yes nod because they can't ask anybody else whether or not their idea is half-brained or full-brained.
Yeah, and it's I used to tell my boss and my peers, I was like, listen, I'm not a yes man. If the boss says no, I say no too. But no, it's a very real need to have that sounding board. I actually just called up a friend of mine. I was putting together a LinkedIn post series on the importance of checklists. And I sent it over to him. I was like, is this too close to the edge? Does it need to be closer to the edge? Just a sounding board. I didn't need feedback from him actually, but I value his feedback, and he has a better perspective on marketing than I do. So having a peer, I actually run a couple of peer groups. Those are great. But they're never as good as somebody that's been there, done that, turned a couple of companies around like you have, that can really tell you, this is how you get more sales in the door. This is how you get more profitable. Yeah,
I think that, again, the experiences that somebody else brings to the table, just a quick story. One of the companies that I got involved with had lost $100,000 a year, $100,000 a month for 2 years. And that's a sizable amount of money. When the bank is considering closing the business and calling in the loan and taking the collateral from the building, that puts those workers out of work. And so righting the ship and getting it profitable was the first step. But in order to do that, there were other foundational pieces, trust that needed to be built. Some new culture had to be built, some education about what they needed to know in order to take it to the next level. And one of the sayings that I've used for my entire career, Drew, is all things are possible with margin. And margin is the difference between what you're selling it at and what your costs are. And if that margin is so small, and that because you're responding to RFPs and you're selling on price, there's no way to be able to pay your staff the proper amount. And therefore, they're potentially looking over their shoulder for their next job. And therefore, you don't have the consistency in your workforce. There's the domino effect to all of those things.
This is actually refreshing to hear. I've said this for literally decades. I can tell the health and the happiness of an organization by looking at their profit margins, and vice versa. Because I like the way you said it. So you can say it again for me, something about margins.
All things are possible with margin.
And
we'll just use a couple of examples. Can you pay your employees more? If you have the margin to be able to do that, can you provide them a higher wage and better benefits? Well, absolutely. And therefore, then they're going to be there to be able to provide good customer service and quality for your clients. And your clients are going to be more consistent because they've got the same people that are supporting them. Are the families going to be better off because they've got a higher wage or they've got a lower wage? Are they going to be sitting at the table going, I'm really happy with my boss because he gave me a 20% raise instead of a cost of living 3% raise because I was, reviews. Yep. We could talk about human resources and reviews all day long, but the idea of an annual review, long past. And send people today, not next year when it's the time for their review.
Oh, 100%. My policy is if you haven't got on the bad side of HR once a year, you're not pushing the envelope properly. My HR friends disagree, of course, but
I'm on your side.
No, man, we are running out of time on the show here. I want to give you the last couple of minutes just to talk. You've given us such great wisdom about how to practically network, that the old school methods are still the best school methods. You've talked about your books, Echoes. You have a new book coming out. I'd love everybody to go check those out. I put that all that stuff in the comments, but just take 2 or 3 minutes and the floor is yours. Just kind of close out the show for us.
Sure. One of the things that, again, I think that a lot of people miss out on, and this is something that I share, especially with younger people, is being vulnerable to share about yourself personally. You'd mentioned the fact that you're Christian and that your listeners know that. I've been through a divorce, and if I share a little bit about me personally, that little bit of snippet, all of a sudden the other person on the other side goes, he's real. He's a real person. I play baseball. I can play competitive pitch baseball. I catch full catcher's gear. I caught 40 games this past season, went to the World Series down in Florida. People go, oh my gosh, I want to have a card in my pocket that says, how are your knees? Because inevitably somebody says, how are your knees? Well, if they weren't very good, I wouldn't be catching 40 games. But all of a sudden now it starts a conversation and they go, oh, I gave up playing baseball 20 years ago, or my kid is playing baseball, and all of a sudden the conversation, but you have to be vulnerable in order to open that up. If I ask you, Drew, are you a Christian? And that's the first question that comes out of my mouth. And you go, well, why is he asking me that?
Yeah.
But
Right.
if I said, you know what, on Sunday, I lead a small group Bible study and it's part of the conversation. All of a sudden, we don't have to proselytize. We don't have to convert. We can have a conversation and we can be real about that.
Yeah.
That turns into some of the best business conversations that I've had started on the soccer field, on the baseball field, on an airplane. And I'll close with this, Drew. I needed to find a car to get to Tucson, Arizona. I was flying to Phoenix for a conference, didn't have a rental car. And I had an opportunity to meet with a client in Tucson, but all of the car rentals were taken up because NASCAR weekend was going on, just like this past weekend with the golf tournament in Phoenix. There were no cars available. And my office assistant, while I'm on the plane going to Phoenix, she's looking for a way to get me to Tucson. It's about an hour and a half south of Phoenix. And I started a conversation across the aisle with the guy on the airplane, telling him my story. Well, lo and behold, he had 2 rental car reservations. He said, you can have one of them. And here's the rental car reservation number. I was going to cancel it when I got on the ground anyway. I had no idea that was going to happen, but it turned into an opportunity for me to get in front of the client in Tucson just because I had a conversation with the guy across from me on the airplane.
I love it. I love it. There's this Indian story, like a Hindu story about all these kids sitting around a pot, and they all have these really long spoons, and they can't feed themselves because they can't dip the spoon into the pot and feed themselves. And they're all starving. And then finally one of them gives up. He's like, well, I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well feed the guy across from me. So he puts his spoon in the pot and he feeds the guy across from him. And then that guy does the same. And eventually everybody starts getting fed because they all chose to feed the other guy. Yeah. And man, your story is like, human connection is why I'm so excited about business.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you and your audience.
Yeah. Well, listen, this is Dave. I put his contact information in the comments. So go to the comments and find that out. Salesmanagerforrent.com, salesmanagerforrent.com. If you've got a small business, a medium-sized business, a large business, maybe it's, it's been tight with all the tariffs that are out here. The economy's not as good as it used to be. If you're like, hey, I need somebody to help me figure this thing out, you don't need to hire somebody you can afford. You need to hire somebody that can change your world. And Dave is the guy for you. He's super well connected in the Cincinnati area and all over. He's done it in multiple industries. He's done it for multiple companies. He's done it in emergency situations. Salesmanagerforrent.com is who you need to go see. Also, go on Amazon and pick up some of his books. They're just chock full of wisdom, easy to read stories. You're going to love them. When you do, send him an email, get in touch with him, tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. And with that, we are out.